Is Mahmoud Abbas still refusing to meet with Mike Pence, who is supposedly coming, at least the dates that we have now are January 22nd and 23rd. He's going to meet. Is that, Dimitri, is that a smart move, since there really isn't anyone else to replace the United States as a mediator in this process?
Look, we look at Jerusalem as the foundation of the peace process with the Israelis.
Right.
Without Jerusalem, there is no meaning for a Palestinian state. Therefore, there is no meaning for a two-state solution. Therefore, there is no meaning for the U.S. to do anything at this point. And given that Mahmoud Abbas had been begging Netanyahu to meet, he had conditions, and then he erased these conditions in a humiliating way.
Can we have West Jerusalem and you East Jerusalem? Is that a reasonable solution for you?
That'd be totally fine.
So what's the problem with Donald Trump recognizing West Jerusalem as our capital?
He didn't say that. He didn't do that.
But he said that there will be a later decision on the border in Jerusalem. You should have clung to this and say, here's an American president who agrees to the division of Jerusalem.
If he has recognized Jerusalem as a capital for Israel and the state of Palestine, with them negotiating to determine the borders, that would have been fine. But he totally took us out in his recognition.
That East Jerusalem will not be yours. He never said that.
He never said that.
But you immediately said that the peace process was dead, as if it was alive before.
Exactly.
I'll tell you the history of the conflict. We tried to impose a state on you and failed for 25 years.
Look, no,
that's what happened.
I totally disagree with you, but I want to let
you tell. I want to ask, actually, after the Jerusalem announcement, which the gentlemen are talking about, don't the Palestinians actually have a right to be frustrated at the U.S. at the moment, seeing as maybe Donald Trump could have said in that speech, Israel, West Jerusalem for Israel, East Jerusalem for Palestinians.
Yes,
he didn't say
it actually made me funny when Dimitri was saying that Mahmoud Abbas was begging from Netanyahu to sit down to the table where, you know, tens of years we're trying to get the Palestinians to the table and negotiate, where Prime Minister Ehud Barak was offering them almost all of their demands. Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, time and time again, we're getting no. So what kind of begging are you talking about?
Oh, well, first of all, nobody has provided us with almost all of our demands. We don't have demands. We have international law. We have UN decisions. We want it to be applied. The peace process was supposed to end in 5 years with total separation between us, according to the 242 and 338 resolutions. That means two states, one.
But
excuse me.
Demanding the right of return. The right of return to Israel.
No.
So it would be two states, both for you.
Look. The right of return in the Arab Initiative, which is rejected by the State of Israel, is simply saying that the right of return, according to the international law and what is agreed between the parties, whatever we agree.
No, it does not. It says
yes, it does.
Based on 194, agreed between the parties, based on 194.
Yes.
That is agreed between the parties after we agreed to accept the refugees. So explain to me.
This solves the riddle.
Wait.
I just want to say, I mean, what I said in the beginning. How can Israel sit down and negotiate with the Palestinian Authority when they are funding terrorists? It's just something that blows my mind.
It's the same question. How could we sit and negotiate with you while your government is the terrorist? Your government is occupying our land. It's killing our children. You are defending settlers that are present in
You can say it again and again. It won't make it true.
I want to move on to another.
It is true according to international law. You live in a bubble.
Dimitri, I want to move on to another topic. The Ministry of Strategic Affairs, head by Minister Gilad Erdan, published a list of groups that it will who promote BDS, the boycott, divestment, sanction. They will not let their members come into Israel. Is this something that liberal democracies do, Vital? Bar people for the... I don't know why you're laughing.
Where's the liberal democracy? It's an occupying state, but go ahead.
It's certainly not in the Palestinian Authority, which has not held an election since 2006.
I agree with you.
I agree with you.
Gadi and Dimitri.
I agree with you.
Excuse me.
To speak in the name of human rights.
I agree with you.
Excuse me, but the question, I asked the question of Vital. I asked the question of Vital. I'm losing my patience. I'm losing my patience, guys. I'm losing my patience.
No, but I agree with what Gadi just said. I mean, the Palestinians are the last people who can, you know, lecture us about human rights. Am I allowed to come and live in the Palestinian Authority? No. So how can you even lecture us?
Am I allowed to live back in my grandfather's house anywhere? People in Gaza, can they go back live in their grandparents' houses? Answer.
Can I live in my grandparents' house?
Can a woman from Bethlehem? Can a woman from Bethlehem drive in Jerusalem?
Dimitri, I'm sorry. I can't take the shouting.
She answered.
Well, she wasn't shouting. Why are you shouting?
Yeah, he was shouting. You didn't say anything.
It's my fault. I'm sorry.
Can we just keep the tones down, please?
If all of us, yes.
I can't control
I told you, if there's a disruptor, it's going to be me.
Yeah, I asked you about the BDS. Doesn't Israel have a right to defend itself from people who are harming it?
This is not a decision that I agree with, but I understand where it's coming from. And it's coming from the fact that under the supposedly neutral guise of human rights, it's very strong groups, and EU money is going to the promotion of war, not peace. Okay. It's going to the promotion of radical extreme solutions which will annihilate Israel. So we are supposed to sit on the sidelines and agree with that?
Thank you very much. We'll see you in the next break. I'm going to say goodbye right now to Dimitri because our next block is going to be about domestic politics. We'll just stay with Lital and Gadi. We'll go out for a quick break. We'll be right back with Lital Shemesh and Gadi Taub. Dimitri, thank you very much. You're welcome.
Our world is becoming increasingly connected. 6.5 million Wi-Fi enabled devices are now shipping every day. And global consumer internet traffic is growing exponentially, with 2.8 billion internet users consuming video at a breathtaking rate. We are creating personalized mobile entertainment and communications breakthroughs that are connecting millions of people and billions of devices around the globe. We are Eris, and we're powering your digital world.
Fearless, timely, and always engaging. Every night, David Schuster brings the news from around the world to your front door. Watch Stateside, weeknights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
What you need to know, the news, fast and to the point, and the in-depth interviews that will keep you in your seat from the people that you trust. I-24 News presents The New Rundown every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, co-hosted by Nurit Ben and Kalev Ben David. Only on I-24 News.
In the Holy Land, there are wonders most people never get to see. I-24 News will take you inside the shadows and unravel the secrets of some of the world's most revered sites in a way you've never experienced. All access from every angle. Tune in to Sacred Sites 360, Sunday 9 p.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
Back on the spinner with our panelists, Lital Shemesh and Gadi Taub, and we are moving to our last topic of the day, domestic politics. A bill that would make it easier to give the death penalty to terrorists passed a preliminary vote in Israeli parliament. Instead of demanding a unanimous vote by military judges, a regular majority would suffice. So basically, I'll ask you both the same question. I mean, this is a law that is, the fact that people can execute each other happens in third world countries. Does Israel want to be part of that list?
United States.
Okay, I know you're going to say that. Not in every state in the United States, and even less and less states as the years go by. It'll probably, I don't know if in our lifetime, be gone in the United States. But the rest are third world countries.
And Texas is advancing to a solar electric chair. Yeah, it's a joke.
Electric chair.
Yeah. But
my question is, do we want to be part of this list of countries that execute people?
I don't think we are. I don't think we are going to execute. This is a PR move by Avigdor Lieberman. This is a law. Courts could execute terrorists before. They never have.
Right.
So now, instead of a unanimous, you need only a majority, in which you didn't even have a minority for executing terrorists so far. So this is a classic Lieberman move. You do a lot of growling, and you say you hate the Arabs, but you actually do nothing that changes anything in the world.
I would say everything Gadi just said.
It's just a political move, basically.
It's just a political
move. Now that there's agreement, it's going to be boring.
But I do understand the frustration coming out of the the Israeli public. You know, you had a few families that lost just yesterday, families of Israelis who lost their loved ones in terror attacks, and at the end of the day, they're seeing the terrorists setting free time and time again.
Yeah, that's the issue that came up.
So I do understand the frustration coming
that's the issue that
from
came
the
up,
public.
actually, the issue of deterrence. I mean, there basically is no deterrence. You mentioned that, you know, these guys are either they get paid by the Palestinian Authority, or there are these big prisoner swaps like there was with Gilad Shalit, and they know that they're going to be out in a few years.
If I may add to what Gadi just said, the government needs to start by tearing down the houses of the terrorists, deporting their families, you know, the stuff that they should do, they don't do. So talking about death penalty,
but you mentioned it's Lieberman that's pushing it, but the Prime Minister himself is also pushing it. Why is the Prime Minister pushing this? Because
this is a way to vent public anger without actually doing anything.
But it makes, doesn't it make Israel look bad?
It's very hard, but he's got his voters to be accountable to, and not just the audience. You know, we're assuming that Europe is going to be against us anyhow. We're assuming that in America it's already a sold-out game, so we know who will be against us and who will for us. And his calculations are based on his voters, not Trump's voters.
I want to get your reaction to another piece of legislation that passed this week. I don't know if you're going to agree on this as well together, but the supermarket bill that turned into law, which will allow the Interior Minister to close supermarkets on the Jewish Sabbath.
I think it's the same case, actually.
Except for at least Tel Aviv.
It's the same case.
What do you mean? That's politics.
It's going to change little. It's going to change little in the world.
Really?
And,
won't it actually really affect a lot more? You know, they will close apparently
exactly
centers.
The
opposite. They've now made an exception for more shops. So actually, in reality, it's probably going to change very, very little, but it's a symbolic issue.
But Minister Aryeh Deri can say to his voters, look, I've done something.
And he's in a pretty bad situation in the polls as well. He needs any kind of help that he can get right now, can't he?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I want to move on to what we're calling here in Israel Strippergate. The son of the Prime Minister, Yair Netanyahu, was recorded talking to his friends Ori Maimon, the son of an Israeli tycoon, and Roman Avramov while visiting a strip club with his security guard and a driver in tow, degrading women and bragging his father arranged for a $20 billion gas deal for Ori's father, Kobi Maimon. Guys, how damaging do you think these recordings are to the Prime Minister politically, basically?
I can't tell. I hope that that voters will judge politicians based on their activities and their ideas, not on the behaviors of their sons. You know, everybody tried to tie this up and somehow say that since being a parent is such an indication of who you are, but his other son is a scholarly nerd and a winner of the
Bible contest.
The Bible context, and so I'm not sure based on which of them we should judge them. And it's just revolting to see the thing itself, and then the gossip, and then what the media makes of it. And this is open. This is an opening for news shows, that some drunk conversation outside a strip club. This is ridiculous.
That's why I think it's not going to damage Prime Minister Netanyahu at all, because people are watching the news and saying this is pure gossip. Why is this opening the news? You know, and it's only helping, I think, in a way, to Prime Minister.
But don't you think there's a problem that he was with, you know, a security guard and his driver? There's a point. This is taxpayers' money.
It's
taxpayers' money.
It's repulsive, 100%.
Let me ask you guys, since you guys work in media as well, from a media perspective, was it right for Channel 2 to publish this stuff? You know, it bought it with money. Apparently, the guy who recorded it went to other stations, and the other stations turned him down. From a media perspective, for example, if you were in an editorial position high up in Channel 2, would you have taken it? Would you have taken it?
Think of the no. Because think of the incentive this gives. Now people will go with their phones, try to record clandestine conversations. What's next? We'll hear politicians in their bedrooms. This gives an incentive to all the wrong things. I can imagine now someone who is installing security cameras will tap into your security cameras and record your bedroom, and then if you buy this, then you cooperate with this, with a disgusting invasion of privacy.
Yeah, not only that, yesterday Channel 20 exposed that that driver was a private investigator. Like, he had a license as a private investigator. So have someone getting so close to the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's son, God knows how long was he recording. I think it's a true danger to the state.
Danger to the state. Okay, that is all the time we have. I want to thank our panelists, Gadi Taub and Lital Shemesh. Guys, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you.
Stay with us. We'll be right back with our segment, Her Week, on the up-and-coming female politician who might challenge Turkish President Erdogan. Stick around.
News 24 is a Spanish-language weekly news magazine on I-24 News, presented by respected journalists Carlos Gurovich and Damian Pachter, bringing you news and analysis of the most important issues of the Middle East and Israel, with the added perspective of the impact on the Spanish-speaking world. News 24, Fridays only on I-24 News.
I'm Lauren Izzo on I-24 News. Join me on High Definition right here for an in-depth understanding of Israel's diverse society through groundbreaking documentaries.
Join Lauren Izzo weeknights at 10:03 p.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
I-24 News.
I'm David Schuster on I-24 News. Join us on Stateside. It's our channel's flagship broadcast, and it features our best reporting and analysis of news from around the world and from here in the United States.
Watch Stateside, weeknights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
Back on the Spin Room. Thanks for sticking around. It's time for our segment Her Week, where we focus on women who are making the headlines. And this time we are focusing on a politician called Meral Akşener, the leader of the Good Party in Turkey. I'm glad to be joined by our international correspondent Bianca Zanini. Thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
And from Florida, freelance journalist Laura Wells. Laura, thanks for coming on the show. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's learn a little bit more about Meral Akşener from this report.
We have hope, we have dreams, we want a rich Turkey, we have strength. We want a fair Turkey and we have the strength for it. We want a free society. You're giving everything in Turkey, all the power, all the decisions to only one person. We have to put the promise to bring a parliamentary system back in our manifesto because this presidency, which has arisen in Turkey, is a strange situation.
Okay, Bianca, give us a little more context. Who is she? Where is she from? What more can you tell us about her?
Right, so this woman was the first female interior minister of Turkey. She's been called the arch nationalist of Turkey, the Iron Lady of Turkey. She's really set to reinvigorate the opposition there. She was a member of this hard right nationalist movement party, the MHP, but in April they chose to support the constitutional reforms that were designed basically to expand Erdogan's power. There was this referendum, so she broke away, established her own party, the Good Party, and right now she is said to be the rival, the only one who could potentially, perhaps, possibly rival Erdogan.
Yeah. I got to say that the name of that party, the Good Party, it's very catchy. A bit simple.
It is.
Okay, Laura, I want to ask you, what are the polls saying, by the way, about Meral Akşener? I mean, is she a real challenger, or is she? Are there polls conducted on a periodical basis in Turkey that show that she has a chance?
There are. We've seen a few between November and December of 2017, and they put the EE party, or the Good Party, at somewhere between 10 and 20% of the vote in the next elections. That would not win the presidency for her. It would not make the EE party the majority party in parliament. That would still go to the ruling AK party. But at this point, many people, let's say about 50% of the population, who are harsh critics of President Erdogan and would like to see change, are looking for any hope whatsoever. And Meral Akşener is probably the best candidate for a challenge to Erdogan because she is on the center right. And though she is a devout Muslim, she's not covered and she's not an Islamist, whereas the AK party right now is acting as a form of political Islam.
So she's not an Islamist, Bianca, but how else is she different, than Erdogan?
Well, I mean, first of all, Erdogan is basically an autocrat, right? We have, after the failed coup in 2016, he really tightened his grip on the country. 40,000 civil servants fired, 50,000 people arrested, and the highest number of journalists behind bars in Turkey. So she says that she wants to reestablish the freedom of expression. She wants to restore this non-partisan judicial system. She wants to pull back the attacks on media and journalists. And then she also says that she wants to reverse this referendum, which will likely impose a sort of presidential style, executive-style presidency. She wants to go back to the parliament. She wants to take away some of the powers of the president. And also, she really is focusing on attacking his policy. That's what she is doing most.
Which brings me to my next question, Laura. Sometimes the best defense is attack. Is Erdogan attacking back?
No, for the moment, he's really ignoring her and letting the MHP from which she left, which is really an ultranationalist party, to attack her. And they've been fairly successful, although she's now focusing on President Erdogan and the ruling party. It seems that, for instance, MHP and its leader, who's been in power for 21 years, is supporting President Erdogan in everything, including the April 2017 referendum. He said that his party will not even post a candidate for the 2019 presidential election because he's going to support President Erdogan as the candidate. So it's almost like an arm of the AK party. Meral Akşener, she is really focusing also on education and to a certain extent business, although we haven't heard a lot about what she would do for business. But in this environment, it doesn't seem that any of the opposition parties who continue to lose ground election after election, percentage of their votes each and every time, can present any opposition whatsoever. So it really has to be someone that is from that center right at some point, or President Erdogan is perhaps so powerful and now has so much control that it will have to be either a health problem or a collapse of the economy for change.
Right. I want to ask you something. Meral has really been campaigning also for women's rights, probably to reach out to the female voters, hoping to win them over. She says that in cities there's harassment, in villages women are beaten and even killed. Has this global Me Too campaign, has it reached Turkey? And could that give her any wind?
Only in the upper echelons of society. Of course, liberals, and many of them educated in the West, yes, it has caught on with them. For the average Turkish woman, no. In fact, a lot of Turkish women, especially those who support the ruling party, they're very proud of traditional roles and what they consider to be family values and, in a way, obeying men. So, no, that's not the case. That's obviously not the picture of all of Turkey or all of Turks. But, those who do support AK Party, a lot of them are very either devout or very conservative and very traditional. Yes, she would like to even institute a quota of 25% female participation in her party, and that will still be a challenge because the people that she has around her right now are still older Turkish conservative men. And the base, if she's really just going after these conservatives at this point, are, again, quite conservative. That doesn't mean that they won't vote for a woman. They did once before with Tansu Çiller in the 1990s, the first female prime minister of Turkey. But it is an uphill battle, for sure, and especially with the rhetoric coming from Erdogan that men and women are just not equal.
So do you think, Laura, that Turkey is ready for a female president?
Well, since they had Tansu Çiller before, yes, I think it's entirely possible. But the entire society is becoming more and more conservative. And that's not only behind closed doors. You can see it in the streets. Women are wearing much, much more modest attire than they were 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. And this is a phenomenon you can see all over the Middle East even.
So for women's rights, it's not going the right way.
Right, exactly.
But is this the right moment?
Okay.
I think things are getting a little more conservative.
We have to, thank you very much, Laura Wells in Florida and Bianca Zanini here in studio. We have to go for a quick break. When we come back, one-on-one with one of Israel's most famous photojournalists. Stick around.
Unflinching, opinionated. Weeknights, David Schuster and Shayna Estulin bring you analysis, interviews, and opinions that connect us to the Middle East and the world. Watch Crossroads weeknights starting at 6 p.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
I'm Tracy Alexander for I-24 News. Join us on Perspectives and get the whole picture as we break down the day's top stories from all angles.
I'm Michelle McCory on I-24 News. Join me on Clear Cut, where we cut to the chase with a straightforward yet insightful breakdown of the world's top political and economic stories.
Weeknights beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
I'm Emily Francis on I-24 News. Join us on Trending right here on the show that shines the light on the many amazing people doing positive work to inspire. This is the show about building bridges.
Weekdays at 8 a.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
What you need to know, the news, fast and to the point, and the in-depth interviews that will keep you in your seat from the people that you trust. I-24 News presents The New Rundown every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, co-hosted by Nurit Ben and Kalev Ben David. Only on I-24 News. Thanks for staying with us on the Spin Room, and we're back with our weekly segment, Creative Side, where we meet the authors, screenwriters, photographers, directors, and artists behind new and upcoming books and films about this region and more. It's an honor this week to host in studio probably the most famous photojournalist in Israel, Ziv Koren, who recently won the prize for Best Series in the prestigious Local Testimony Photo Contest. Ziv, it is good to have you on the show. Thank you for coming.
Pleasure being here. Thank you.
So first of all, how long have you been in photography and a photojournalist?
Approximately 25 years.
25 years is a long time.
Most of my, all of my adult life.
Adult life.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about Local Testimony, the photo contest. What kind of photos are in there, and exactly what you won?
Okay, first of all, it really looks like a bit like the sister of the World Press Photo Contest,
Yes.
which is the international, the biggest probably in the world. And it's pretty much the same in terms of the segments in different segments that you can send your photos to. So you have, beside obviously the news part, which takes more of the attention usually. You have things like sport and environment and other categories as well.
And you won Best Series, right?
Yes, the Best Series is kind of different than it's not like places 1, 2, or 3 in each category. It's like the best series of the year.
Okay, so what was let's start going through the series. We're going to bring it up on the screen. Tell us a little about what the general idea is behind your series. It was basically one night, basically, of arrests in the West Bank. Here we go.
Most of the series was shot in like probably about 3 minutes.
Okay.
So
wow.
I joined the Yamam, which is
a police unit.
It is a police unit. It's considered to be one of the top units in terms of counterterrorism. And I joined them for a night raid. Based on intelligence, they knew a guy that they were supposed to arrest that was involved in terror in this way or another.
Right.
And I joined the forces. We saw them going down from the helicopter. This was all shot in total in a night.
It's very dark.
It's a dark night.
So you had to keep your camera very steady, didn't you?
Exactly. And it's very, I mean, one of the things that are very different in this series than things that we were able to shoot like even 5 or 10 years ago is the ability to shoot at night with very high ISO. So all these pictures, the only available light is the moonlight.
Well, how did you come up with the idea to begin with? Why did you want to do this kind of thing?
First of all, you know, when you take the responsibility of becoming a photojournalist in Israel, you will probably have to confront, you know, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict this way or another. So this is, and from the day one that I became a professional photographer 25 years ago, I was involved in documenting the conflict. And I think that I'm trying to get as deep as possible and to get access to really have the ability to photograph what we usually don't see.
Talk about access. This is the real access. This is inside the apartment. They've barged into the door, right? And they're inside. And these people were sleeping and...
Exactly. They woke them up and arrested the guy that they were supposed to arrest, and this is his wife. And we literally see her, in a second, we'll see a picture of her when she's putting the shoes on to her husband before he's
going to be, this is the husband being blindfolded, and there's the wife right in front of him. You know, could you share a bit about what you feel when you're witnessing this? Do you feel any... do you feel empathy for the soldiers because you're an Israeli? Do you feel empathy for the Palestinian who's being, you know, his house is being...
You know, I guess I have empathy to both sides in some way, and I'm trying to capture in the 3 minutes, as I told you, from the minute that they break in the house until they're out with the suspect.
Yeah, I want to ask our director to stop on this picture for a minute, because there's something about this picture that I saw was really quite... I don't know how to say. I mean, there's almost something a bit surreal about it, because it feels like it's very quiet. The woman looks almost like, I feel like I've done this to my kids, tie their shoes before going to school.
Exactly.
And here is a man who's being arrested. How did you...
I think that what makes this series a bit special is the fact that you get... Usually you see just the military point of view, and there's a big mess in the house and so on. And I have to admit, it was very quiet. I mean, there were only the two of them in the house. As I told you, the arrest took less than 3 minutes. We were out of the door.
When you're there, are you talking? Are you talking to the soldiers, to the Palestinians? Or are you just being totally
nothing
observant?
At all. Nothing at all. I mean, on my end, it's. I think that the highest point of a documentary photographer is to be like a fly on the wall, and that's exactly. You know,
almost unnoticed in a way.
Yeah,
you're not...
because the idea is to capture the moment as realistic as possible, and you know, I'm not coming with any agenda that wants to tell the story of this part or the other. You know, I come, as you said, as an observer, just to see and to capture the pictures and to make you the judge of if it's right or wrong. Is
that easy for you? Or is it difficult for you to be, you know, to detach yourself like that, to be quiet? Do you feel like you want to sometimes say something? Or
honestly,
do something?
I would prefer being a fly on the wall and tell the story as it is. I mean, in many cases where I become in front of the situation. the camera takes part in the situation, and things change because of the camera.
Because of the camera.
Exactly.
I mean, people act differently because they see you.
Exactly. And in these kind of situations, as I said, the highest level I can get is to be a fly on the wall and just tell the story as it is.
So is it different than what you've photographed throughout your career doing something like this project, or is it something?
Listen, throughout my career, I've been dealing with subjects which are very unpopular, and this is one of them. You know, I deal with diseases. You know, I've done stories on AIDS and stories on Children's Hospital, and you know, travel around the world shooting disasters from Haiti to
You've
tsunami.
seen a lot, and I think we even have a picture that you had published on the cover of Time magazine that we can post. I think it was from '94, one of the most horrific terror attacks in Israel. That was in '94. This was the time of the, you know, after the Oslo agreements.
Exactly.
This is one of the many terror attacks.
This is one of the reactions, the first Hamas reaction to Oslo agreement.
It was the first reaction, right? And there was the number 5 bus, I think, that was blown
exactly
up.
A major.
Here it is. Here he is. Yeah.
A major bus explosion carried by Hamas that killed 24 people.
24 people.
And I think that this is supposed to kind of balance the story that I've done on capturing the, you know, the story of fighting terrorism. I think basically terrorism is not an Israeli problem, it's a global problem, and I think that Israel found the way to kind of crack the DNA of terrorism in a way, because they're working every night with very precise intelligence, trying to decrease the level of terrorism and, you know, try and keep terrorism out of the Israeli cities.
Ziv Koren, thank you very much for bringing your photography and sharing it with us, and congratulations on that one, a very prestigious prize.
Thank you very much.
Stay with us. When we come back, it's time for Raviv Reveals with our chief Washington correspondent, Dan Raviv. Stick around.
I'm Lauren Izzo on I-24 News. Join me on high definition right here for an in-depth understanding of Israel's diverse society through groundbreaking documentaries.
Join Lauren Izzo weeknights at 10:03 p.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
I-24 News.
Fearless, timely, and always engaging. Every night, David Schuster brings the news from around the world to your front door. Watch Stateside, weeknights at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
We're back on the spin room, and now it's time to head over to Washington, D.C., these days known as the capital of fire and fury. It's time for Raviv Reveals with Chief D.C. correspondent Dan Raviv. Dan, it's good to see you. How are you?
Another plug for that already best-selling book? I'm fine, but let's not overdo it.
You're right. You're totally right. I take it back. But we have to talk about just a little more, Dan, please. Fire and fury. You know what? I want to ask you, you know, there's some interesting chatter in the book about a possible Mideast plan, isn't there?
Yes, and who expected that? Now, keep in mind that the author Michael Wolff had a lot of access to the White House in the early months of the administration, right from about January 20th last year when Donald Trump was sworn in, for a few months, maybe all the way until August when Steve Bannon was fired. Bannon was the fellow who really let Michael Wolff in. Well, in all the chatter of what was going on, largely because of Bannon's thinking, there was a serious idea that Israel would group together with Egypt, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia. It would be a coalition against Iran. When it comes to the West Bank, if there could not be a deal with the Palestinian Authority, then let Jordan have the West Bank. Of course, if you know the Middle East, that means somehow persuade King Abdullah of Jordan to take the West Bank. And if Egypt wants the Gaza Strip, I mean, really, Egypt doesn't want the Gaza Strip, but it was that kind of thinking, a combination of simplistic and complex, that the Arabian Gulf countries, together with Israel, could be the new anti-Iran coalition. Don't forget, Trump's kind of thinking is let other people pay the bills, let other people do the work. We'll see how that unfolds this year,
Dan,
if at all.
You know, Dan, that plan about giving the West Bank back to Jordan or something, that makes, I think if I was in the Trump administration, that would be one way that I would try to discredit Michael Wolff. It sounds just so bizarre. What do you make of the attempts of the administration to discredit Michael Wolff now?
Well, first on the Middle East, that could have been the thinking early on, but now that Jared Kushner and others have taken trips to the region, they doubtless have adjusted their plan, which may be unfolding in the coming months. Now, the White House has decided to say that Michael Wolff has a terrible record as a tabloid journalist, and he lies, and lots of people in the business community feel that. Well, some do, some don't. He's an exciting writer, but he does know how to get into places and get a story. It's important to the White House. That's what I'm really seeing, especially when Wolff suggests that there's something wrong with the mental fitness of Donald Trump and that members of the Trump administration secretly think that. Here in the last few days was the White House rolling out Donald Trump, well, in his self-described word, the genius. Just yesterday, for instance, there was Trump doing a meeting for about an hour as practically the chairman of the board with dozens of members of Congress, and they let the reporters and cameras stay inside for almost an hour. I thought they were showing off that Trump is very capable. And then keep in mind, in less than 2 weeks, he'll be in Davos, Switzerland at the World Economic Forum. I think they're out to prove to the world that there's nothing wrong with Trump's mental fitness.
That's right. But I do think we're going to hear a lot of those two words a lot more for the next coming months. But you mentioned also Steve Bannon, Dan. Steve Bannon, amazingly, decides to leave Breitbart. Look at this. He's banished from the White House. He's banished from his website. Dan, is this the end of the era of Steve Bannon?
Well, it really might be. Of course, comebacks are possible. He'll probably try to find some new financial backers, and he would, in effect, be the leader of a new Tea Party, you know, an economic nationalist only for America. He gave Donald Trump a lot of ideas, but now Trump despises him. Bannon insulted Trump and Trump's children. So I'd be amazed if Bannon ever gets friendly again with President Trump. Bannon lost his financial backing from a very wealthy family called the Mercers, and so Bannon was chucked out of Breitbart News. We'll see, by the way, if that news website continues to be important in the conservative movement.
Well, let's talk about some good news for Donald Trump. The stock market, Dan, is breaking records. And, you know, despite the Democrats saying at the beginning of his presidency that this was an inheritance from Obama, let's face it, now it's kind of time to give Trump some credit, isn't it?
Well, should it be in the form of the stock market, or does that benefit almost only rich people? Sure, lots of Americans have retirement plans, 401ks as they're called, but really, do they really feel it? Trump loves to talk about the stock market. It is up 25% since he was sworn in January of last year. That's something. It shows a lot of optimism on the part of corporate America, but the corporate bosses probably knew they'd be getting a big tax cut that's coming into effect. Most Americans will benefit some from the tax plan, some won't. Rich people, almost all of them, will benefit, and corporations certainly have a lower corporate tax, so it could be good for American business. We'll find out this year, next year, if it's good for the economy.
Dan, do you think really quickly that Democrats are worried about these good stock market numbers? I mean, could it hurt them in the midterms?
That's right. In the midterm elections, Democrats are very optimistic. They think Trump is unpopular. Democrats say he's a failure. Of course, the White House says he's a huge success. Right. But if the economy is looking good and people feel a little richer in their paychecks every 2 weeks, that would help the Republicans a lot this November. And Trump is so confident of defeating even Oprah Winfrey if she runs in 2020.
All right, Dan Raviv, thanks a lot for that. See you next week on Raviv Reveals. That's it. I hope you enjoyed watching. Thanks for taking a ride with us on The Spin Room. Hope you hop on again tomorrow, 6 p.m. Tel Aviv, 8 p.m. New York. In the meantime, hang in there.
I'm Khaled Ben David.
And I'm Nareet Ben.
Join us on The Rundown here in the heart of the Middle East for a candid conversation.
A closer look at the stories born out of this region and driving changes all the way to Washington.
Politics, economics, business, and technology. Get the real news and the real insight about what's happening around the world. Michelle McCory breaks down the top stories of the day from the Middle East to the U.S. Weeknights beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern. There's more to the news than meets the eye. Many voices, many faces, with interests often at odds. We take you deeper beyond the headlines, inside the drama, the controversy, bringing you fresh insights into the conflict, breakthroughs, heartaches, and victories shaping our world. Perspectives. There's more than just one view. Sunday to Thursday at 5:05 p.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
Strictly Security. Your weekly look into security, intelligence, and strategic affairs. Our team brings the latest on the major international conflicts. Analysis of the major security issues right here in the Middle East and around the globe. Join us for a close look at innovative military technology and get up to speed with what's happening in cyberspace. Saturdays, 8:05 p.m. Eastern, only on I-24 News.
I-24 News.
This is the I-24 News Desk. I'm Ayman Siksik with this hour's top stories. Thank you for joining us. Hundreds of Israelis accompanied Rabbi Raziel Shevach as he was laid to rest today after he was killed in a drive-by shooting attack near the outpost of Chavat Gilad in the West Bank on Tuesday. Shevach was 35 and is survived by 6 children. Security forces are now blocking Palestinian villages in the West Bank in the hopes of identifying perpetrators. During the eulogy given by Education Minister Naftali Bennett, a group of teenage settlers known as the Hilltop Youth called out revenge, saying Shevach was killed by terrorists. Bennett replied saying, quote, "The only revenge is construction." And Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman said ahead of the funeral that he has given orders to potentially recognize Chavat Gilad as a legal settlement. Arab foreign ministers will meet early next month to discuss steps against U.S. President Donald Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. The meeting of the Arab League Council will be held on February 1st in Cairo, seeking international recognition of a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital following the U.S. move. Arab foreign ministers in December urged the U.S. to rescind its decision and said Washington had withdrawn itself as a sponsor and broker of the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. Trump's recognition of Jerusalem sparked deadly clashes in Palestinian territories and was rejected in a non-binding UN General Assembly resolution. Now to Tunisia, where one person has died, 50 policemen were injured, and more than 200 people were arrested in 2 nights of widespread protests. Police and army forces were deployed in several cities. as the unrest across the country grew over steep price rises resulting from austerity measures. On Wednesday, hundreds of young people took to the streets in Tiburba, west of the capital Tunis, after the funeral of a 45-year-old man who died in the unrest on Monday night. Clashes erupted in more than 20 towns and cities late on Tuesday, with protesters blocking roads and throwing stones, and police retaliating with tear gas. Those were your top stories this hour from the I-24 News Desk. More updates are coming up on i24news.tv and our Twitter and Facebook pages, so be sure to follow us online and stay tuned. There's more coming up on I-24 News.
SIAE Microelettronica presents.
You're watching High Definition. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Michelle Divone. Today we continue to follow the story of 10 elderly gay men who meet weekly in Tel Aviv in a space that allows them to openly share their everyday dilemmas and the experience of growing old in a community that values youth. These 10 men become one another's confidants and in some ways family. They talk about everything from sexuality and body image to loneliness and their lives as widowers, divorced men and parents.